Hello, beautiful Earth Angels. Welcome to Team Joanna. My name is Joanna. I am a healer and a medium. And these are answers to the questions that many of you have posted on the private Facebook page. So if you are not a member of Joanna the Healer Facebook page, you can go ahead and join. That link is down below. Just click on the more info section and you will see the link to the Joanna the Healer private forum on Facebook. And you can post your questions there. Every Tuesday we will be releasing Q&A with Joanna, or Q&A Tuesday, every other Tuesday, and I will be answering randomly the questions that you are asking. So even though they're being asked by each individual person, the way I try to answer those questions is to give everyone the benefit of being used the information. So I hope you enjoy it. And again, if you are not a member of our private page, go ahead and join, and you can have your question answered as well. All right. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy what you hear. And if you would like to comment down below, by all means, please do. All right. Thank you so much once again, and see you soon. Bye.
All right. Well, welcome back, Team Joanna, to Q&A Tuesdays.
Yay. Hey, guys.
Where we are asking Joanna questions. And for those of you who are not aware, there is a thread that is specific to asking Joanna questions, which is where I'm getting these questions from. So you can find that in the announcement section. And if you haven't seen or heard our previous Q&As, you can also find them in the announcement section. So Joanna and I are going to continue with the same format that we did in the last Q&A, which was the second Q&A. And I'm taking your questions directly from the thread, and Joanna and Paul are answering them for us. So Joanna.
Yes.
This is from Danielle Myers. She says, I've had multiple experiences in life now where I am present at the time of or shortly after visiting, or easily able to predict a soul's transition out of their earthly body. I've heard things like gatekeeper soul, an energetic healer of souls on the other side, etc. But there just isn't information about this. I've spent much of my life feeling very insecure, especially when I was younger, about this. I was frightened, terrified to be around anyone who was ill. This happened again just a week ago as my grandmother transitioned. I was there. A day before, when I was afraid to leave her side, I knew she didn't want to pass alone. I clearly heard how many hours she had left, which was a first for me, being so emotionally connected. I guess I'm asking what you see as being the bigger picture for those called to be in this position. I honor life and know it's simply a transition from it, but what in the heck? Are there specific types of souls or missions? If so, what's your viewpoint on this and others who may have entirely different experiences?
Wow, that's a powerful, powerful question. I'm going to see if I can actually answer all the little nuances that are in there. But what I get when I listen to this, so when I listen to questions, it's hard to explain, but it's like I feel the energy underneath the question. And the entire time that you were reading the question, all I kept hearing was, this person wants to put a label on it so that she knows where she fits.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to say is, you're a unicorn. Which means you don't have to fit anywhere, yet you can be part of everything. The mind says, what is that supposed to mean? And the word is, quite simply, detachment. How can you be participant with these gifts without attaching yourself to anything in particular? To me, as Joanna, that's a master skill. Now, does that mean that there is no direction, what the person could go and learn, and what kind of people could this person associate this herself with? No, it doesn't mean anything or like that at all. What it means is simply this: please do not try to fit yourself into a box. It is because we fit things in a box why the person would be afraid to talk about it in the past, right? She was talking about it in the past. That's because she had an understanding that this type of thing was in a certain box, and maybe this box was labeled bad. Or you shouldn't do this. Or there is gazillion beliefs. So one of the questions that I believe she's asking is, what is it that I'm actually doing when I do this thing that I do? And what I'm feeling is like this person is literally tapping into various timelines. And she's able to perceive what is most likely to happen, because there's other likelihoods, but she seems to be able to pick up the one that correlates most with what is most likely to happen. It is a unique gift that she has. And I feel it's like a sense of knowing. Is that Claire? What Claire is that? A sense of knowing. Is that Claire Sentience? I'm just going to look it up. Claire Sentience. There's several Claires, right? Like seeing.
Yeah, clairvoyance.
Yeah, clairvoyance is vision, I believe. Clairsentience. Yeah, it's a feeling. So it's a gut feeling about people, okay, or situation. So I feel that she intuitively just picks up. Now, some people would call it a blessing and a curse because, well, it's nice to know that when nice things are happening, nice things are about to happen, but when it comes to the quote unquote not so nice, it's much more difficult, right? So this is when, the whole idea of gift being a curse at the same time is often presented, because although you are in control of your gift mostly, it's like when you have an ability to pick up things, you're not going to just choose what you pick up or what you don't pick up. It's like you have to accept the quote unquote good with the bad, except I don't want to give it a good and a bad label. That's the label we give, humans do. Because there's nothing good or bad about it. It's either whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable based on what we believe. So for example, if a person has a very strong belief that the person is transitioning and what they're doing is they're shedding their body, but they're going to be free and happy, the level of quote unquote badness in tapping into it is a lot less. Does that make sense? Now, it's when someone you love, obviously there's a connection there, emotional connection. It's always much more tough. But this is one of those things that I feel, and I don't feel she's asking, how do I turn it off? Because I don't feel you can turn it off. If you turn it off, you turn off your gift. It's that kind of a thing. So what I would say, they're reminding me, thank you. When I started this journey of doing this type of work about 20 years ago, I remember distinctly saying, and I was driving from a kickboxing class, and I remember it was dark, it was winter, and I said out loud, I even see the road I was driving, and I said, okay, guys, if you want me to do this work, I do not want to see or hear anything that would be displeasing to my client or I. That's what I said. And for 20 years, I've never been deceived, let's put it that way. So there is a level of, remember, it's a relationship. Everything is a relationship. So if you put it out there that you do not want to experience as much of those difficult messages or difficult knowingness, then work with your team or with your guides or with your God, whatever you want to call it, and just intend to have more positive. So what might happen is, what is most likely to happen is, there won't be so much a reduction of perceiving what's going to happen that's unpleasant, but there will be relatively more perceiving of the positive, which will make, quote unquote, the negative not as bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
but it is this person's gift. There is just no way around it. But as far as, what does this, are there certain people that are supposed to do certain things? I guess you could call them healers, people who guide others, light bearers, light workers. You can give yourself any label you want that you deem is appropriate for you. I try to stay away from labels. What I would say is that this person has a gift of being able to perceive things that are out of most people's reality, and she's able to observe and perceive a different reality. I hope that answers the question. It's not very clear, yes and no, but generally that's how these are answered. It's not a yes or no. Usually it's not a yes or no.
Well, thank you.
Do you feel like it kind of
yeah,
for her a little bit?
And I think that I was getting, and I'm not sure if this is true for Danielle or not, but a feeling of like she's causing it, or maybe that was the feeling that she felt when she was younger. And
yeah, I
think
could see that. I could absolutely see it.
Clear that
yeah.
Just because you know when somebody is going to pass doesn't mean that you're causing it.
Absolutely. And I could absolutely see how that would happen. Because there would be a certain level of judgment around it. But no, if that's Danielle's concern, you are absolutely unequivocally not causing this to happen. You happen to be part of, it's almost like you're part of the experience, like with her grandmother. You had, it's like you have the privilege of knowing things other people don't. It's like you basically, you tune in. You naturally just tune in. You're more in tune with that other environment.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, just knowing that, it's part of it is about accepting the gift as is without trying to make it be something it's not, or, make it to be something that it fits a certain criteria. And I feel this person is still learning about this gift. Not because the person doesn't know it, but because there hasn't been enough time devoted to honing that gift. And I feel perhaps now is a good time to allow that gift to expand. And think about it this way: if we have an anxiety about our gift, or if we feel reluctant, or if we feel like it's causing bad, we naturally are not going to be open to expressing more of it. Right? We're going to be holding back a little bit more.
And there's probably other things that she's connected to that she's not recognizing. That's what you're saying, right? Like that she's probably connected in a lot of other ways, not just in when somebody is going to pass to the other side, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But that may be her specialty, so to speak.
Right.
So, for example, I'll give you a personal example. The last few times I did a healing on somebodies who were on their deathbeds. And I didn't know obviously how long they have left. I would tune into their energy, and their soul basically would say, this is not about a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And basically my energy, my session with energy, it's almost like allowed the person to leave their body with more ease. And if I didn't trust in what I believe in, I would say, well, what if I caused it? Does that make sense? I have no power to cause it unless I actually physically, harm someone.
Right.
But the energy, it's like the energy has its own intelligence, and it knows what it needs to do, because I have this human brain that limits a lot of knowing. So I just kind of resort to being the channel, but I'm not causing necessarily anything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. I support the person's journey. Let's put it that way. So if this person has this gift, well, not if, the person has this gift, generally when we have this gift and then we know about it, it's because we chose to experience it here on some level.
Mm. Yep.
And oftentimes gifts can be also curses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, there's very rarely black and white. It's always in the gray, you know? So accepting this gift as is without labeling bad, good, or this or that, just accepting it as is and thinking of it literally like a part of you and building relationship with it and building trust with it. Always think of these things as you having a relationship with it. If someone says it's my gift, you're not saying I am a gift, you say it's my gift, which means if it's yours, you own it, right?
Right.
Which means it's on some level, it's somehow separate from you, but it's also a part of you. So establishing a different relationship where there is almost like you would have a relationship with a friend, a trusted friend. It helps to open up that gift so that it can express itself even more.
Mm.
Right? No different than me learning how to work with this consciousness calls itself Paul. No different. And he's been around me for quite a long time. And it is only the last few months that we've become kind of close and personal. He's been observing me as I was getting ready and building trust in myself, building faith in myself, letting go of, oh my God, what are people going to say? Or, all those limiting beliefs, and I still have plenty, because the less I am limiting myself, the more I can work with him in a way that's very powerful.
Mm.
Otherwise, I am limiting its flow, the flow,
Right.
right? Gift is never good or bad. It's how we term it based on what we understand about it and how we attach ourselves to it, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So I hope that was helpful. That was a great question.
Yeah, it was. It was. All right. So, disclaimer, hopefully I'm not going to butcher this person's name. So I think it's Tiana Miha is asking. She says, I am afraid of scary things at the best of times. And sometimes, wait, I didn't take this down right. So I'm afraid of scary things at the best of times. And sometimes things that come are not so pleasant. How do I know when I'm safe and when I'm not? And is good always as depicted in the movies, like white light and angels? Because stuff I see looks scary to me, so much so that out of fear, I push it away with all the power I have. Help would be much appreciated.
So the first thing that I want to say that comes to me intuitively as a message is, in time, this person will be able to relax more into it. Okay? I feel part of the big fear is her not understanding what she's looking at. And when we don't understand, we often fear it. I'm going to give you a personal example. When I had my sacred plant ceremony last year, and I was being worked on by an alien. Okay, I hate that word, but let's just call it another entity. Okay, it just does disservice when I call them aliens, because it's like we have such a weird relationship with the word alien.
Yep.
Plus we put everything in the one basket called alien, but it's like, wow, what a disservice to all those beings.
Right.
But anyway, this being appeared to me something that I would have never, ever in my life imagined that it would appear to me as, and it was a giant praying mantis.
Mm.
Now, if I wasn't prepared and intending on having a healing from quote unquote an alien, because that was one of my intentions I held, I might have gotten scared. Purely because of the visual. Or, for example, when Mother Aya would appear to me as a ginormous snake. I actually felt the fear But the fear wasn't because the snake was fearful, but because it had so much power that I didn't know how to react to it first, but with fear.
Right.
So my reaction to it was what I felt, but just because I felt fear did not mean that this being was something that I should fear. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
And when we look at things that we deem fearful, it always helps to look at it as a mirror image of something within ourselves. So when this person experiences something and it makes her feel fearful, and I know to do it in a moment is not always optimal, is to ask yourself or herself, ask herself, what is this reflecting back to me? Right? That is how I'm being asked to answer this question. What is being reflected back to me? Right?
Yeah.
So let's answer it a different way. How do I know that the beings that I work with are not, quote unquote, the bad kind? Let's use that analogy. Because I felt the bad once, and therefore I know what it feels like. It feels nothing like what I work with when I work with those higher beings. It's a completely different energy. Literally like black and white. However, what I have learned, and this is fairly recent, what I have learned, and I have learned to have a healthy respect for fear. I no longer look at it as something evil. I look at it as something that is part of our universe. And because it is, it means it has a reason. In other words, it too has value. And I began to experience this strange relationship with fear, where I can still feel fear, but it's like it's a different relationship. I don't know how to describe it. Because I also know that when I feel fear, I am tuning out of who I really am, which is there is no fear in terms of who we really are. The fear exists because we have this thing called ego identity. We believe we are separate. It's the duality, right?
Yep.
So maybe just going to use that example at examining those fears and what they represent in that person. What are they reflecting back? And if you look at your fear, or if we look at our fears, and I've said this before, if we look at our fears or differences or weaknesses, whatever name we want to use, as strengths in the making, we will have a different relationship with it. We will be less likely to object it or trying to get rid of. We'll be less likely to resist it. Does that make sense? Because fear, in and of itself, is neither good or bad. It is absolutely necessary. If it wasn't, we wouldn't feel it.
Right.
It's as simple as that. At the very basic level, fear is what helps us stay alive so that we don't make stupid choices, right? So,
right.
But oftentimes, and this has been said, we fear that which we do not understand. So perhaps with this person is about understanding, what is this fear about, right? Yep. Because the reality is, the more fear-filled we are, the more we will experience fearful things, because they will be triggering those fear-filled thoughts, right?
Yeah, for myself, when I moved up here to Toronto from the States, every single day was terrifying for me. And I remember a girlfriend, she actually mailed me stickers that say it's a trap. And she was also very insistent that I stop. It was what I called, it was my anxiety, right? Like, so I was owning it, and she it's stop saying that, like, stop. It's not you, it's a trap.
Yeah.
And so it's the anxiety. And so first it was that shift to stop owning this tremendous, terrifying fear that I had being here. The other
You
thing
stopped identifying with it.
yeah, exactly. And so putting it outside of myself. And then the other thing that she encouraged me to do was to write it down and preferably burn it. Or at the very least, what I did was I put them into a jar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would take like a little sticky note and, you know, if it was the homeless person who had just gotten into my face, you know, I'd write down, you know, the homeless person. I would crinkle up the paper and put it in this jar and put it away in the kitchen in one of the drawers in our kitchen. I remember my wife like pulling it out, going, "What the heck is this?" And I'm like, "That's all the fear. That's all the anxiety. I'm putting it all in there." And so that was actually a really helpful sort of exercise for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought I would share that.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great example.
Yeah.
That's a great example. I'm hoping I'm answering the question for this particular person.
Yeah.
I feel if we had more details, I could unfold more, but I'm just kind of limited with what she's giving me.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Deborah Hacklin is asking, how can we more fully be love? We are human. We
Mm-hmm.
have gut reactions, all sorts of feelings. How do we really fully live the 5D?
Part of me wants to say we're not in 5D yet, so we can't say how we live there because we're not there yet.
Right.
And again, if we predefine what it's supposed to be like, then we are effectively limiting what it can be.
There you
I
go.
love how he's explaining things. I just freaking love that. He gives my mind a twist. He twists my brain a lot, and I don't mind that. It squeezes things out. So rather than trying to figure out how to live in 5D, why don't you reflect upon how you would rather live now in the current state, regardless of what D you are in? And incidentally, the higher frequencies you choose now will get you closer, quote unquote, to 5D. So 5D, quote unquote, is really about being in tune with your heart, not just with the logic. It is not one absence of one or the other. It is in collaboration with one and the other. So as a result, a much more balanced state. Anything that's much more balanced is much more resilient. Okay. So the question might be, because the question was, what is it like to be love? What's the first part of the question?
Yeah, how can we more fully be love?
Well, for starters, accept the fact that you are it right now. Now that's a conundrum for the head, isn't it?
Right.
What do you mean? Well, exactly what I said. First, I know, it's crazy. Accept the fact that you are it right now. Your very vibration, the very essence you are quote unquote made of is love. It's not the sexual love. It's not the love that we feel hot for somebody. Well, no, it's not that. It's infinitely more than that. It's the very fabric of existence. And beyond certain dimension, there is no fear. Love is all there is. Right? So, but regardless of what dimensions we are still love. We are not love in its purest sense because we are living a physical reality, but we are love now. Now, the question then becomes, how do we choose to be love? What does that mean? How do you choose to express love? For one, being your true authentic self is you being love.
Right.
So the answer might be, one of the ways to truly be loved is to live as authentically as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so, like, I'm tuned into that answer, and it's so true.
Yep.
That does not mean that you don't get to choose, that you just get to wait for things to happen. No, it doesn't mean any of that. It still means you have to use discernment. It still means you're going to get judged. It still means you're not going to feel good enough. At the end of the day, those are just temporary identity components that you choose to experience. That is not you.
Mm.
You are going back to square number one. You are love as you are right now. So choose how you want to express your love. If your way of expressing more love is to choose and smile every single day, then every single day you wake up, your day will be that much more happy. Right?
Yep.
Because I think the tendency can be sometimes to look for things that are grandiose and big labels, and I do this, therefore. No. As a matter of fact, it's about the simplicity. The person who knows themselves, the person who's true to who they are, the person who loves themselves and cares for themselves as well as others, is a person who is truly, quote unquote, in love with themselves. Mm-hmm. But I don't mean in a narcissistic way. I'm going to put it differently, because even to me, Joanna, being in love with yourself, it's kind of, there's something creepy about it for me. Clearly, that's one of my lessons. What I will say is in a way that makes, when I say it, to me, it rings, it just sits better. And to me is about unconditional acceptance of one's self, including the good and the bad and the ugly. Mm-hmm. Unconditional acceptance of one's self. And then from that space, choosing, if one wants to have a different experience. Mm. If we remind ourselves, oh, wait a minute, I'm love. So let's say somebody gets angry. And by the way, being love doesn't mean you don't get pissed off. Being love means you experience all of the above. How you choose to express and what you choose to do with it, that's up to each and every individual. So what does it mean to be more love? You decide. Generally, the truer you are to one's true self, the closer you're in, the closer you are to that answer. Right? Mm. I think we need to remember that everyone, although we are all here to help another, we're here to love. At the end of the day, each person is on their own individual journey. We have a journey together. We have a journey as far as being on planet Earth, but we are here all on individual journey. Mm. Right? Not only that, if we cannot be love to ourselves, we cannot really practice love to another.
This is true.
Not very effectively, right?
No.
So choosing to feel fulfilled is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of selflessness. Right? I remember a few years ago when I was in meditation, Spirit said this to me, because I was getting some kind of a download, on helping others and all that kind of stuff. And they said, we learn or are taught about how to be selfless to others all the time. But when are we ever taught, at least in the past, how to be selfless to ourselves? Mm. Right?
Right.
Oftentimes when we look at a selfless person, not always, but often, that person gives themselves away. Not doing themselves any favors.
Right.
Right? Because once you give yourself away, you've got nothing more to give. And then you're running on empty. And that is not being the best loving version of yourself.
Correct.
Right? Sometimes being the best version of yourself, being loving to yourself, means saying no and upsetting somebody. Sometimes that's what it means. And that's the harder part of being an empowered human being. We don't get all of a sudden, choices don't disappear. We have more choices, and they're big choices. with more empowerment, there is generally more responsibility. That's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I feel like when you're constantly giving, and I think we talked about this in the last Q&A a little bit, but when you're constantly giving of yourself, eventually you get to a point where like you're resentful.
Yes.
And it's also very depleting.
Yep.
You know? And then people take advantage of you as well, right? And so you have to give to yourself, because if you don't recharge, then you're just empty.
As you're saying this, I'm being given a vision. It's kind of a comical vision. It's like kicking your car and getting pissed off because it stopped because it ran out of gas. Go ahead, kick the car as much as you want. What's the goddamn car gonna do? It's your job to put the gas in it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
If there is no gas, the car ain't gonna run.
Yep.
And that's obviously a metaphor. So it is our responsibility to take care of our cars, our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Don't do what I did once. And I literally did this quite a few years ago. I, being a woman, forgot to, I guess, put oil in my engine, and I killed it.
Oh, I've done that several times.
Not proud of it.
Oh, oops.
But metaphorically speaking, I was not very kind to my body. I used to uphold my body. I used to hit it. I used to be violent towards my body.
Mm.
When you are violent towards yourself, and whether it's physical or not, what are you essentially saying to you? What are you saying? You're saying, I don't want you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you. I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
You are essentially saying to your body, I'm rejecting you. Well, you know what your body's going to do? It's going to find a very innovative way to reject itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to start rejecting. But now I feel like I'm getting on a different tangent that could take off on its own. But there is a correlation here, right?
Yeah.
When there is no replenishment, depletion often follows. Just like you would never really grow a bountiful harvest on a soil that's depleted.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? There ain't no nutrients.
It won't. Right.
Yeah, it's not gonna
grow.
Yeah, it's not gonna grow. So being loving to ourselves means taking care of ourselves. That is our number one responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, we are here for ourselves, first and foremost. Yes, we're here for other people, yes, but primarily we're here for ourselves, right? There's something you're getting out of being here, even though you're here for other people, right? So I hope that answers that question. But that was a great analogy.
Yeah.
Put the gas in the damn car.
All right. So you want to do one more?
Yes.
Okay. So Annabella is asking, well, originally when she posted this, it was to a specific date, but so I generalized it. So what is your opinion on mass meditations and portal openings?
Part of me wants to say my opinion matters very little, but I'm going to answer it anyway. Because again, it's the whole idea of don't care what I think, right? I'm happy to give you what I feel, but don't make what I say be your reality, because that would be a mistake, right? Because that is not empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
I do not ever want to be, I actually, as a matter of fact, I've always had this fear, really, always very strong. I never understood where the hell it came from. I always had a fear of being very powerful. I couldn't figure out what the hell, like, where does that come from? And now I know it comes from other lifetimes, right? Where I probably played with it a little bit too much and was not very responsible with it. But at the end of the day, my aim is to empower, right? So, but here's my 2 cents on it. The more people focus on something that is of greater purpose, and we give our attention, which means we fuel it with our energy, the more chances that that focus will make an impactful change.
Mm.
You know, the vision that I'm getting, very clever. It's like having a stamp, but you stamped it 100 times so that when you put a stamp, you can barely read it. But then you put the stamp in the ink and then you stamp it again. It's like super crystal clear. Does that analogy make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So the more people focus on a specific intent, the more people give that intent energy. If you look at energy in terms of frequency output, it's like that vroom stamp that's very solid versus the one that's yeah, yeah, yeah. That does not mean that individual focus is not helpful, not at all. But we're talking strengths and numbers, right?
Mm. Yep.
So not really answering as yes or no or black or white, but I feel like I'm giving a pretty good um, position that I am in. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Do I feel it's positive? Absolutely. Just like when many people focus on negative, what do we create more of? Fear.
Right.
Well, it's no different, right? So it is absolutely very impactful, right? What was the other part of the question?
Portal openings and mass meditations were the two pieces.
So the mass meditation, I believe I answered that. The portal openings, let me just see. I didn't really dive into what is even a portal opening, but here's what I'm going to ask him to show me. What do they mean by portal opening? So he says to me, think of it as a moment in time where you can make a certain headways. Now that's interesting. Moment in time where you can make a certain headway. It's like certain conditions come together and create another set of conditions that, if focused upon, can take us into another experience. Very interesting. So as I'm actually literally telling you what I am seeing, how does it come across when you hear it?
Oh, I mean, it's making sense to me.
Okay. Because you're the logical person right now. I'm not in my logic right now.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So that is what I am being shown in terms of what it means. What do I think about it? I actually haven't had a thought about it. My thought about it is it's interesting. I'd like to explore it, but I don't have an opinion on it, good or bad. Now, I'm noticing something as I am saying this. I'm not really attached to it. I'm not saying it's this or it's that, it's supposed to do this. I'm just going, that's interesting. I'm leaving it open. Huh. Which means I am neither in or out. I'm kind of open for possibilities. That's interesting. But I remember the last, I don't know if it was this past weekly pulse, one of the last weekly pulses in April. I spoke about the whole idea of detachment, not believe anything in particular, yet not discount anything at the same time. To find that space somewhere in the middle where you can kind of go, that's interesting. Let's see what happens. And I've been taking that stance on most things, to the point that sometimes especially when I'm outside running, I think to myself, I don't even know what real is. And I'm going, I'm detaching from what I used to know as the norm. And although it can feel slightly disconcerting because it's like you don't know where you stand, it's to me, it's what's the word, please? It's a sign of moving. I don't want to say higher. I don't want to give it a hierarchy, but moving to a different frequency, right? Because at the end of the day, attachments is what limits us. Now, some attachments are beautiful, wonderful. Some attachments, not so much. So the less we are attached to things, think about it, the more we are able to experience. Right?
Yep, you're right.
So what's my opinion of it? I don't really have one. I think it's just, I think it's something very interesting. The way he explained it to me makes perfect sense logically. And I'll explore it further.
Awesome.
I like that. That was a great question. Fantastic question.
Well, this has been delightful.
Yes, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is our Q&A Tuesdays, which our intent is to publish them every other week. So hope everybody has enjoyed this. And, certainly let us know below what you think of this particular format. I think Joanna and I are really liking it. But please do let us know, and do make sure you go into the announcement section and find the threads specific to these Q&As, and please feel free to post your questions there. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay.